Opening her latest electricity bill came as a shock to Ashley Anger.
Honestly, I thought it was like a joke.
Those were the thoughts going through her mind when she received an electricity bill for more than $1,500. Hannah Moy says hers came out to nearly $800.
Definitely gonna take me time to pay off that bill, and chances are they're not gonna like that I can't pay it all at once.
A spike in Alberta's electricity costs. Statistics Canada says a 127.8% increase in Alberta electricity prices last month.
Regulated rate option, it's broken. The fact that it's going up to 30 cents a kilowatt hour shows it's not working.
Sky-high electricity bills, something Alberta Premier Danielle Smith blames on the broken regulated rate option.
That busy tone is what a number of Edmontonians heard today as they attempted to get more information about their power bills and how they might be impacted by the province's deferred electricity payments.
A power struggle hitting Calgarians in the wallet as the regulated rate option for electricity skyrockets in Alberta.
Oh yeah, it's going up, even on the supposed lower price, it is going up.
Despite Alberta being one of the largest energy producers, Albertans pay some of the highest electricity costs.
No matter how much hours I put in, no matter how long I work, every time I come home, the bills seem to be double.
Did anyone else have a heart attack when they opened their gas bill this month? My bill was like double what it normally was, and I'm going through my head, did we barbecue more? Did I leave the fireplace on? Like, what's the deal? I checked my usage and I actually used less than this time last year, and it made no sense. So I took a look at my bill and I used $23 worth of gas, and somehow after all the taxes and fees, that equals $236.
Anybody else's electric bill just ridiculous? This was my bill same time last year. I'll show you where the media is lying about this. Please like and save this video. You already know how they make electric, coal, natural gas, petroleum. Coal prices have plummeted this year. Oil has plummeted this year. Natural gas prices, all of them down. Which makes you scratch your head a little bit. How is ExxonMobil making record profits? And if we look at America's largest electricity company, NextEra Energy, is they are keeping the differences in savings from the cost of the natural resources. So they often will blame it for inflation and say that their operating costs are rising. That is a complete lie. Their operating income here in orange is less than in 2022. And no shock, their revenue over here, 20%. And that's just one quarter while we've been going sideways. They say that natural gas is in short supply in the US. So why are we sending it overseas then? Yet again, another example how our Americans are not taken care of and corporations win again. Going to be expediting that wood stove soon.
So I think this is so funny that this article came out a few days ago, because literally me and my boyfriend were looking at our electric bill and we were like, what the fuck? And I was going to stitch a video about this, but I couldn't stitch it. So I was like, all right, just got to make my own. But electricity rates in Texas skyrocketed amid statewide heat wave. Texans were paying about $275 per megawatt hour for power on Saturday. Then the cost rose more than 800%. To a whopping $2,500 per megawatt hour on Sunday. Citing data from the Electrical Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, or as I like to call Shitty Greg Abbott's, electrical system. Prices so far on Monday have topped off at $915 per megawatt hour. Y'all do not understand how fucking hot it is over here right now. And what is alarming to me is that it is hotter in places like Arizona right now, for example. Yet our system is failing and theirs is not. One thing about me is I always love to give some fucking context. This is the weather we're dealing with. Mind you, there have been multiple text messages that ERCOT has sent telling people to drop their AC. Telling people to drop their AC to 78 degrees and leave it at that. I need y'all to understand that if you leave your AC, even me and my boyfriend leave it at like 70, for example, right? Which is considered way too low by ERCOT standards. Your apartment is still hot. The AC is not blowing. You have to have fans going. Got to have all the doors open so that you can have airflow. ERCOT issued a weather watch for Monday, warning customers that the state may see higher temperatures, which will in turn put heavier demand on its electrical grid. The energy provider assured customers there is currently enough capacity to meet forecasted demands. And as of Friday of this week, when this article came out on Monday, it has been able to sustain it. But the major issue here is ERCOT is going to charge people an arm and a leg. And it's funny because I've seen a lot of people actually start to talk about this more and more, and I think it is so important that when it is so fucking hot outside, it makes you miserable. Very similar to what people go through with seasonal depression when it comes to being extremely cold and gray and dark outside. This heat just amps you up in every way possible. And it is a recipe for disaster that this state is not only going to amp people up because they are raising the rates, but people are also going to have to fucking deal with this heat. At a time when people, again, I use this statistic all the time, 60 to 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It is so fucked up that they continue to raise our rates. People can't fucking afford it.
I just got hit with a $570 electricity bill. And believe it or not, that's not even the worst part. I used about $4 worth of natural gas between April and May, and the administration fee was $8.96 on that, with delivery charges coming in at $31. And so for less than $4 worth of natural gas, I paid $50. And then I also paid $316 worth of delivery charges for less than $230 worth of electricity. So my total bill for the month of May was $622 in utilities. Now, I do use much more electricity than your average household because I'm doing some crypto mining as well as some 3D printing. But overall, it just seems crazy to me that the actual energy used on my bill only made up 37% of the total cost, and that basically just service fees made up 63% of what I'm paying in my utility bill every single month.
Would you like to see a great example of corporate gaslighting? I live in Georgia, where we are building the most expensive power plant ever built on Earth, Plant Vogtle, at $35 billion, and it's a nightmare. Plant Vogtle began 13 years ago in 2009, and you can see from this opinion piece, it's a little hard to read, the top circle is showing the year 2010, that Georgia Power promised this time this nuclear plant would be on time and on budget, unlike the last nuclear plant they built, and unlike any nuclear plant built in the United States, which are never on time and on budget. But this time it would be different, and they would do it. The promises they made were that it would be built by 2016 and that it would be built for $14 billion. Well, they missed it by a wide margin because here it is, 2023, and it's finally getting done 7 years late and $17 billion over budget. That is an insane amount of money that is too difficult for most human brains to even grasp. It is so large, it is going to raise Georgia's power bills 20% for 60 years. And now here we are, 2023, and they're finally delivering the plant. And where's the gaslighting coming from? It's coming from the new CEO of Southern Company, who claims that their customers will be so proud that this power plant is finally getting done, and so proud of the work they've done. No, we won't. Is he kidding? How insulting. Does he think we're proud of it being 7 years late and more than double the budget they swore in 2010 would be on time and on budget? That's ridiculous. We're not buying it, sir. People in Georgia are already hurting over high power bills here. We pay the 7th highest power bills in the nation, and over 20,000 Georgia families are disconnected from Georgia Power every single month. It's an incredible amount of people that are hurting that can't pay their bills. And that's before these headlines were generated from a 12% increase that occurred just this month in May to take effect June 1st to pay for $2 billion in natural gas fuel cost overruns. You can see from these headlines how angry people were. They were pleading, begging. Public service regulators face ire, citizen pushback, and so forth. But this was just for 12% for 3 years. Imagine what the feedback's going to be for 60 years, for 20%. It's going to be the battle of the century. Georgia Power does not deserve the $10 billion in cost overruns that they want their customers to pay for their own incompetence and material miscalculations, otherwise known as lying, that they've generated from this plant. I'll just leave you with this filing at the Public Service Commission from an independent construction monitor in highlighted yellow at the bottom where he says, Everything they've said for the last 13 years has been materially inaccurate.
Some Albertans are about to see their electricity bills go even higher. As electricity prices skyrocketed in the winter, the UCP decided to institute a rate cap, essentially loaning Albertans the funds between the variable rate and 13.5 cents. And they've publicly called this a rate cap, implying that they're helping Albertans keep their electricity costs low. But when you read the fine print, you realize that it's not a rate cap, it's more like a forced loan, with Albertans receiving the benefit right before the election and then having to pay the loan back right after the election. Greasy move. So anyone who should have been paying 29 cents in January, 30 cents in February, or 20-ish cents in March was actually only paying 13.5 cents on their bill. And any savings that homeowners incurred is now going to have to be paid back between April 2023, right after the election, to December 2024. So it wasn't a rate cap, it was a loan. And as this article states, the toughest part about all of this is that some people could have switched to a fixed rate without penalty, which is much more competitive and affordable than the variable rate. However, because of credit score and deposit requirements, many low-income Albertans have to stay on the variable rate. So instead of communicating and educating Albertans about fixed versus variable rates, the UCP chose to loan, without their consent, money to low-income Albertans and ensure that they won't see the bill till after the election. Again, greasy move. And the even tougher part about all of this, and this article shows it from 2018, is that the NDP had an actual rate cap at 6.8 cents a kilowatt hour that the UCP removed as soon as they took power. All this to say, if you've been on the variable rate for the last couple months, get ready for an increase in your total bill costs. And as always, give me a follow for more stuff on solar and electricity prices in Alberta.
Everyone who lives in California, listen up, because your utility bill is about to go up a lot by like $400 to $1,500 a year. I know, that's crazy, right? And this is in the state that already has the highest utility rates in the country. See those colorful lines? Those are California ratepayers. See the gray line? That's everybody else in America. But apparently our greedy utility companies want more. Last year, the California legislature passed a new law, AB 205, that included a provision that requires PG&E, SCE, all of the other California utilities to charge ratepayers a new utility tax. This tax is completely uncapped with unlimited potential to grow. And maddeningly, this bill passed without any public hearings or discussion, and a lot of the legislators who voted for it didn't even know that this provision was tucked into it. And the craziest thing about this bill is that it's going to raise taxes the most on people who live in apartments, smaller homes, and people who are trying to conserve energy. I kid you not. And I know this sounds like implausible, but it's 100% true. You can Google it. Our utility bills are about to go through the roof, unless, of course, we can stop it. And of course, there's an action, because there's always an action. I want you to go to this website. I'm going to ask you to either call or email your representatives. Calling is ideal, but emailing is fine too. And we're basically going to ask them to repeal this bill. This is not a time for our electricity bills to go up in California. It's never a good time to punish the working class or people who are renting or living in small homes. And it's a completely bonkers time to discourage conservation. So the California legislature made this mess. They can clean it up. They need to repeal this bill. Please contact them and tell them to do that now. Time to tell these utility companies enough with the greed.
Welcome to living in Sydney, where electricity is $843. That's if you pay on due date. But if not, it's $1,120. Broke life. Bye.
California's trademark warm weather has really been anything but that in 2023. Historic rain, now followed by freezing temperatures across the Bay Area, is leading to higher than ever gas and electric bills, according to TURN, the utility reform network.
Hundreds of people are calling to say they can't afford to pay their bills. They're afraid of being shut off. They're cutting back on their prescriptions, cutting back on food. People should not be faced with the choice of heat or eat.
And unfortunately, PG&E tells us they're expecting a 32% increase to bills this winter compared to last. Natural gas bills alone 5 times higher in California than benchmark prices in the U.S. last week. PG&E spokeswoman Myra Tostado says the company does not control market prices for natural gas or electricity. Supply and demand does.
PG&E customers have already used more natural gas than the 5-year historic average. So this is a historic winter where we're seeing very cold temperatures, a lot of freeze warnings, and that's impacting the price of natural gas on the West Coast.
Tostado says that means customers could see bills around $80 higher than previous winters. A climate credit from the California Public Utilities Commission is being voted on Thursday to provide some relief. But Turn's executive director Mark Toney says the CPUC needs to consider other measures.
What we need to do is to get the California Public Utilities Commission to set a cap on rate increases. I'm talking about, why should utility rates go up any higher than the rate of inflation?
Until that time, energy savings expert Cindy Bray says washing your clothes on cold and drying them on low and turning down your thermostat and water heater a few degrees can help you save money on utilities.
These simple tips will make a big difference immediately in your energy bills. You'll notice right away.
I set up my direct debit for electricity that was based on 5 years of previous tenancy. That's what I was told by the guy I was talking to. And they calculated that I would be paying £143 a month based on previous tenants. And I just got my bill for last month of living here. Are you ready for this? Because I am literally gonna start crying any second now. So as I moved in on 22nd of December, and I'm not gonna lie, this whole week we didn't really save the energy. My sister was with me. It was Christmas. We were cooking a lot together, so I didn't really care that much for it. Then from 1st of January, I was very much saving up my electricity. Every time I would get out of the house, I would switch off all the plugs, everything. Like there was no heating in the house for the whole day. I would come back, it would be cold. I would start heating up then, but I didn't during the day. The only thing actually working throughout the day is my fridge and my Wi-Fi. That's it. You want to see the bill? What? What? That's twice as much as they calculated for me for the month. Okay, we can agree this is a little bit more than a month, but I'm literally shaking right now. I know I look crazy. I just started my eye makeup, like, what? And this literally takes away all the joy of me living here by my own, because instead of being happy, enjoying my apartment that I love, I am worried about these things. Because if I'm gonna pay £300 a month for bloody electricity, like I think I need to quit the gym and quit Netflix, because literally, like, I will not have money for basic things anymore, not to mention things like Netflix that is not a basic, that's additional. We don't have to technically have it. So I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking right now. And I forgot to add, from April, prices are going up another 20%.
Right now, the Texas power grid is stressed due to the heat, and it is nearing maximum levels. Let's talk about what that means in terms of your power. For those who don't know, I'm a news reporter here in Austin, Texas for the ABC News affiliate. My name is Ford Sanders, and I work for KVUE News. The Texas power grid, we've got our own grid. We're not like the rest of the nation. We operate on our own, and ERCOT is who runs that grid. Today is Friday, August 25th, and this is the second day in a row that ERCOT is asking Texans to, honestly, scale back their power usage from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. today. And it's because the grid is stressed right now. It's got a lot of demand going and low operating reserves. Let's talk about what that actually means. So for the grid to be operating pretty normally and pretty soundly, it's got to have good wind generation, but wind generation is really low right now, but the demand is extremely high. Why is the demand high? Well, because it literally feels like hell on earth here in Texas. Thankfully, right now, the grid is not experiencing emergency conditions, but there's a caveat to that. It could be expected to move into those emergency conditions by this evening due to the fact that, like we said, wind generation is low. There's a dog. Wind generation is low and demand is very high. So what's actually going to happen if the voluntary, they're asking people to voluntarily roll back their usage, but what happens if that doesn't work, if it's not enough? Well, ERCOT actually has a couple levels 1, 2, and 3 of things they can do, and level 3 actually includes rolling outages. They will implement forced outages across the state. Now, this has only happened 4 times, in 1989, 2006, 2011, and of course, 2021. Let's talk about 2021. A lot of people right now are obviously scared because in 2021, you had a major failure of the Texas power grid during the winter storm. Now, those were extremely cold conditions, but guess what? We're now in extremely hot conditions, and it's just as stressed. It's getting near those maximum capacity levels, but I'll show you. For those that are more visual learners, it's kind of hard to understand, but look right there. You see demand and committed capacity and available capacity. Everything is right on top of each other. It's getting close to being maxed out. Comment down below if you were here, obviously in 2021, if you were in Texas for that big overhaul of the grid, because obviously a lot of people are now on edge anytime that they see that capacity get extremely close like that.